Hi, everybody. This is Slava Kurilyak joining you from Vancouver, Canada, and I am super excited for you to join this live stream where we discuss how to build great products from idea to launch. This live stream is meant to be interactive. This live stream is meant to educate those who are interested how to take idea from the inception to all the way through launch. This live stream aims to help companies, help individuals productize their solutions. And I am super excited for you because we have a special guest on the show. We have David Reid, who is the CTO, CMO at NOV. I will introduce David briefly and I will invite him to join this live stream shortly. A little bit about David. He is a very experienced professional who has been in the sort of various industries through time. He has worked with small to large companies. He has dealt with companies that were making 10 billion all the way to $25 billion. And he has a diverse background, everything from innovation to technology, marketing, sales. He also has a passion for drilling rig architectures and drilling automation. And on this live stream, we will discuss how to build great products from idea to launch. I'm super excited to bring David on this live stream, and I welcome David. David, thanks for joining.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Likewise, this live stream is meant to be interactive. This live stream is meant to educate. And more importantly, this live stream is meant to bridge the gap between technology and business, right? You know, as individuals who are working on the day-to-day of business, we often forget that technology helps us to get to the next level. And so this live stream is meant to bridge that gap. And this live stream also is meant to educate those who are thinking of scaling their products, scaling their ideas forward. And a little bit of background about myself before we get into the live stream. I have been working in the AI space for the last 7 years. And what I've noticed is that most companies struggle to reach full autonomy. And at Produvia, we develop artificial intelligence solutions to help companies to be more autonomous. And this is my background. This is why I do what I do. But I would love to learn a little bit more about you, David. So let's start this live stream by asking you the question, who is David and what is your DNA?
Well, I was originally trained as an architect, which is interesting. So I didn't end up doing that. I did it for a while in California and then in Scotland, but really very much on the creative inventor side. And as I actually got a role, someone in oil and gas offered me a job in a repair shop, which seemed odd to me at the time. But as I got closer to they make these giant machines. It's fascinating stuff. And so large robots was the thing that really drew me in. They had these 100 to 140 foot tall robots that they were making back in the 90s. And so I was drawn into that and where that could go. It was a very small part of the business. But so that drew me in, and I became a designer of the whole layout and how things worked. I was always looking more holistically at things and got involved in that. And very young in my career, I was kind of one of the prime guys able to go out and change how things were done across the industry. And so as that evolved, I was constantly looking at new ways of doing things. I'd started in Silicon Valley when I was dating what became my wife, but so I always had those friendships that helped me to drive into everything I was doing. So that was a good connection. So very much in the automation data over the years. I think Y2K probably drove me to go faster on what we were doing, to standardize the large machines, so that we could, at that time, planning on future machines talking to each other, understanding what's ahead and where they're failing and what's wrong with themselves, and improving performance. And then eventually we connected into the earth. When we were drilling, we started to work out how to get inner space, as we call it. We got to do the work of going miles into the earth and have computers tell the system what it needed. And so, yeah, we work quite a bit with the space industry just because of that. We have that in common. We work at 10,000 feet into the sea, or into the ocean, or the Gulf as it is near here, and then another 20, 30,000 feet in from there, and then going off in different directions. So it's fascinating technology, and we work in renewables, industrial. We do all sorts of other things, but that's been our core has all been in the oil and gas business.
David, I would love to learn about your unique background to leveraging both technology and marketing. You have a very unique perspective on both industries, and I would love to learn sort of your motivations for doing both technology and marketing.
Yeah, it's strange. It's not strange to people who know me. It's actually a perfect fit. But for a while, maybe the term marketing isn't perfect, but it's hard to kind of pin down exactly what I am anyway. But the connection to market, and I mean, I've traveled the world for my whole career. COVID's given me my first break where I don't have to live on airplanes. But about 25 years, I've been constantly traveling the world. And it's really because of the ability to connect markets and understanding what's happening, from governments to policy to design to business, but really very connected to the products and the future of the company. And so my boss always says, because I paint and do music, I'm kind of a bit different in that way. And he always calls me an artist first. And he said, so to him, marketing and technology is art, So we have these small groups that do rapid prototyping and come up with new ideas. And that's all very much the artist and the engineer. And then in the marketing side, there's a level of science and art together as well, where you're trying to get it right. And so tons of the future thinking of the company, no matter what my job was, I tended to be fixing problems that helped us through future cycles. And so I'm pretty good at designing the system of people and product and market to think about what's next. So a lot of our new technology today, like I say, 2000 was the beginning of my journey for automation and autonomy and all that stuff. And it's just you have to be very patient. So we've done a lot of different things that have helped us be successful now. But the things I work on that are not public are, they come out in 5-10 years, and I'm okay with that. I'm pretty patient. I just keep doing a lot of different things so that we can, be successful. So.
Yes, that's perfect. So that leads me to the next question, David, which is, you seem to have a very long-term view of where things are going. And I would love to learn from your perspective, what are the differences between sort of the creative side, the artist's creativity, and the technologist's innovation? Obviously, there are overlaps between how we think about new or novelty. But how do you see sort of creatives or technologists bridge that gap between creativity and innovation? And from your perspective, you're thinking long term, and I would love to learn from how you think about technology as it relates to creativity.
Well, it's all, I find when people have the good innovators and the good artists, they don't operate out of a scarcity mentality, and you have to help make that flourish. In other words, ideas and invention are like abundant, and when you have the right kind of people, it's all a right kind of people game. But the problem is, it's all irrelevant unless it can become something. If it doesn't change the world, it's not interesting. And so often people will go down the wrong road, and they'll fall in love with ideas, which is, as a technologist or artist, you can't love your own stuff too much. You need to understand that it's Even though it's rare to find those inventors and to find those right creative people, it's hard to hold those people. It's hard to have them happy inside a company. And our company's been really good at the people side and making them happy, but also helping them to keep moving, so that understanding personality type and their belonging at the right time in the process, as well as the discipline of yeah, this is never going to work, but that doesn't mean you don't do certain things. So sometimes we'll allow things to happen, that we know, yeah, it's not going anywhere, but the process will be good for us. Maybe it helps you grow the individual, maybe it helps you on a journey, but restraining that kills creativity and invention. At the same time, there has to be success. That failure is just another way of saying learning. And so allowing people to rapidly fail at things and do things and have good work-life balance. There's a lot of aspects to the human in the middle that if you get it right, you can start on the journey. But getting those people on the path of success, more than preference, like I like this, I like doing this, I like this idea. Yeah, but does that idea make money, and does it make money soon enough? Future ideas, you've got to. We find this with people who are fairly strategic, but if you're too strategic, it's kind of like in the States here, where I grew up, you didn't pay for college; it was government funded, and if you couldn't pay, but here, you have kids, you got to start saving, right? So a good strategist would save money to send their kids to school, but a really great strategist wouldn't forget to feed them, because it's happens in business where people fall in love with a business that's going to pay out in the future, and they just live on hope, and their business dies or their product dies, and they feel like someone did something to them, and it's just not healthy. And so you have to have that methodology to, how are we going to make money now? How do we feed the now need to keep us alive for the future? And that works in all facets of creativity and invention, and to get those people to really play in their lane and feel great every day about what they do. It's quite an art in itself of managing people and process and success, making sure that the right things happen. And yeah, so I love that. I love the people aspect more than anything, is creating environments where people are successful. And I mean, I'll go. My wife's from LA. We'll go back there and worked a bit with Disney and with Pixar, and looked at people who were doing really good creative work just to understand, how do you manage your humans. And not well, some of them, Pixar, not well at all, but certainly a great story, but they basically squeeze all the creative juice out of the human being, and that's their job, and they make sure that they're not aware of it, but they don't get good lives. And that was something I learned in Silicon Valley, was good life balance is really important. And people come to me and say, you should be in Silicon Valley. I'm like, no, they're horrid to people. I mean, it's just a horrible human environment. Same thing happened in Pixar. And Disney, I'd say, was better. I was much happier and learned quite a bit from how they treat their creatives and create a place where there's good balance. But when you get that right, the right people aren't leaving. They're going to stay. Most of my team are over 10 years with the company. I have tons of millennials at that kind of rate, which everyone says is not possible with millennials, but it is if they're happy and they're growing and you're doing it right. So I think a lot of it is that fine balance of make sure people are happy, make sure they're doing the right stuff, make sure they go home and have good home lives and healthy, doing other things other than just their job. You get all that right, and it works out, I think.
David, I would love to learn more about how you think about products. You've mentioned that you are a person who loves to work on projects that make an impact on the world, make an impact, something that is more tangible than sort of idealistic thinking. So let's talk about how we can go about building a product, right? What type of mindset does a person need to have? You've mentioned before the abundance mindset. I'm assuming that plays into the role of impact. How do you think about building products, let's say, from scratch all the way through launch?
Well, it's just the different phases and building great teams. I think that's probably the most important part, understanding the different players, understanding your own weaknesses, For me, my marketing side is like I can be in an environment and work out a lot of things really fast. I'm highly perceptive, which really helps because great products really come from. I mean, I have parts of my team who will go and analyze and look at, okay, what's the job to be done? Let's really get that part right and make sure we're doing where the pain is, we're developing the product. But the really great products all come from something nobody knew was needed, right? And that's where the great stories, there aren't books on that because there's a level of perception and there's a lot of intangible in that space of how do you get to that great product. But a lot of it is listening and being aware of the situation. And you almost need to be smarter than the customer would be because you have to perceive something they don't perceive, which most humans are blind. They have lots of blind spots in their life. So they don't realize that if I had this, I would buy it. But getting a great product first, having an idea, that obviously is really important. And then having a vision of where you're going, but being willing to change that vision, which is not what they teach you, right? They say have it and hold on to where you're going, but that real being able to adjust the story as opposed to being passionately tied to the story, and then staying connected, but involving people who are end users, making sure that the right kind of people who can help you. I often see people in product development. They'll say, okay, I'm going to bring in someone from the outside, but not actually, profiling who they are. If they're from the outside, what's their experience? Do they have a history of even understanding business? Sometimes in our business, people will look to our end users and say, hey, come and tell me what you need. And they'll spend your money to death. I mean, they have no business. I mean, we're full of engineers. I mean, tons of great engineers in our business, and they're all used to dealing with lots of variants, but they're not product people. So they will send you down a road of their needs, never thinking about, can you get volume out of this? Can you get the cash out? Will I pay it? I mean, just willingness to pay really matters, which, everybody wants it. Well, will you pay for it? Oh, no, I wouldn't pay more money for it. So some of it is the science behind it of analysis and understanding the market. And some of it is gut, where thinking I've got it right. And then you have to have knowledge about the business. I always describe it to people as, because everyone's like, oh, I want to get out of the box because that'll fix everything if we're just out of the box. But most people don't understand the box, right? So people will go into businesses and not really know what it's like to use the product, or what do people really deal with, and they're already trying to change it. It's like, well, you have no idea of the constraints of the box first. So the first thing is shut up and get inside the box and listen a lot. And then once you understand it, you got the language down, you understand the space that you're in, now you can take people outside of the box. So, I mean, for me, a lot of the long-term development stuff, I just don't tell a lot of people. And it's not important. And really good strategists, inventors, they're more happy that it happens than they are anything else. And that's kind of the architect. Early in architecture, when I saw my ideas happen the way I wanted them to, it was a buzz. I'm like, that's what I wanted. That's what I had in mind. And a lot of that is I will say in architecture, they teach you a lot about ego management, which I wish everybody would go through some of that. But bad architects just express themselves. Good architects express the need that already existed, and they fulfill that need. And that understanding of it's not you, it's outside of you, and that you're in harmony with a lot of things in life to make great things happen. And that's really how products go well. You build better teams, you start to know your weakness, you start looking for great players, and you gain great relationships and connections, and that's everything. I think building great teams is what makes great products, not anything else. Because if you understand your weaknesses and you start to shore up where I'm not great, but then you kind of, I have a real desire for high performers. Even our corporate culture, you get a chart of, okay, where are the employees, and they kind of place them. And there's a few who are like, they're really not great performers. I don't believe in that fundamentally. I think all humans have a high performance life that they can live. And the question is, can you get them there? And if not, can you get them somewhere else where they can get there? Because I don't care about whether I have them on my team. I care about human beings finding the right spot. And the more you care about that, the better your product and your organization will be. Kind of soft stuff, but there you go.
The architectural background has played influence on your history. You've previously mentioned that one of your favorite books is the 101 Ways or Things I Learned in Architecture School.
Sure.
I'm curious to know what has been your biggest sort of takeaways from architecture as it applies to either business or technology?
Well, there's a lot. There's 101 of them. Because that's the fun part.
Yeah.
So there's so many different things that, in that book it's a very simple book, which I like. So you can apply things. They have things in there like just name something, you're like, okay. So everything you do, name it. It's just simple things where you learn some real good principles about how people work and how society works. I think that all of the principles I use in there are usually for life and management and how to manage people. So I think teamwork and self-awareness are critical tools. And so architecture just did a lot of that for me, helped me to really process. But it also, they're holistic thinking, because I'm in an engineer heavy industry. Like even all management are usually our engineers. So their ability to contextualize is quite low. And so they solve. They give me the criteria, I'll solve the problem. So their ability to step back and go, wait a minute, what is going on around this thing? I'll never. My first time on a giant. These drilling rigs are massive structures offshore, and I saw these. We were developing some robotic system to handle small, up to 20-inch tubulars. Yet there was a 30, 36, 40-inch large tubular that they would take up, and was actually damaging the opening into the rig because it would swing back and forth on a floating vessel, and it was much more dangerous than these small tubulars. But everyone thought, we can make a machine to handle the small part. But it was the worst part. So I knew nothing, but it's my first time on a rig. And I said, well, why don't we create something to handle the big things, and we can put the small things inside of it? And everyone was like, wow. But, there wasn't in the spec. Nobody had asked for it. But nobody had gone out there and gone, this is the bigger issue. And so that contextual capability is something I really picked up in architecture, and the idea of, how people are in a situation. So engineers will solve things, but not always think about what is the human experience in the middle of this, and how am I affecting the human beings. Today I run my own rig, which we have robots on and do all sorts of fun stuff. But now that the robots, the well they just drilled was all the robots handling the pipe, which is much safer. But I'm thinking, can we get the cabin off? And everyone's like, why would you take the cabin off for the operators? They need to see what's going on. I'm like, because this can blow up. It seems obvious, but no, but you need to be near to the well. Yeah, but people would die. So if we take them off, it's so obvious stuff. But not to everyone, when you're deep in the science of what you're doing. And so I think that ability to contextualize things and understand that there's a lot of tradition that caused things to happen where people don't step back and wonder why. And so that's something I learned a lot through architecture.
Absolutely. I think that we often get lost in the present. We get lost by the glittery and the shiny notifications and things that are happening in the moment, and we often forget to take a moment and project into the future, which does not yet exist, right? And so the question then arises, how do we project into the future? In your case, how do we build a product that can be successful, that can make a revenue for myself or the company that I work with? And I'll share with you, David, one exercise that I play with my team at Produvia, and I call this the Wayne Gretzky exercise, and I think it's something that I've learned by watching Wayne Gretzky play. One of the important lessons I took away from Wayne Gretzky was that he would always go to where the puck would be. He didn't go to where the puck was. He, in a way, had the mental pattern recognition, the mental foresight to predict where the puck will be. And so the Wayne Gretzky game is simply a game where we play that allows us to project into the future. And let's say we're talking about 30, 50 years from now, we're envisioning something that seems so today that there's a possibility of this happening, right? So imagine we're playing the Wayne Gretzky game for cars, and we're envisioning cars of the future. What would they look like? And perhaps it's a flying car. Right now we see things that are moving above us in air. They're autonomous. They're powered by solar technology. And now we sort of take a realistic stance. We say, okay, so how can we bring that vision of 30, 50 years from now into the present moment? And now we start to make compromises. We say, well, look, maybe the car is not flying yet, but what if the car is learning to hover? So what technology will we need today so the car is able to hover as a sort of the first step? And now we are working on hovering technology that uses computer vision, technology that uses cameras, videos to be able to detect where it's at, navigate through hovering only. And this is how we sort of project into the future. In other words, we are in a way working incrementally. We're not going for the full picture, we're going for a vision of it. And I think it's a very important sort of game we play because it allows us to help also companies to think about automation in terms of different levels, right? So, previously we thought of, what is innovation? Perhaps it's either you have no automation. You either have no automation or you have full automation, but actually there's a spectrum, and we defined actually 6 levels of automation. I think I would love to share with you. I think you're going to find these levels are quite relevant, especially as we see companies that are going and creating full autonomous vehicles like Tesla and others. They already do this in sort of behind the scenes. But the 6 levels are no automation, worker assistance, partial automation, conditional automation, high automation, and full automation. So these are just like different levels of how we think about automation. And I would love to learn about how you think about automation as it comes to how you deal with technology at NOV.
So a lot of the work that we did, we go outside a lot. I mean, we go connect with different people, and that's probably one of the smartest things you can do, I think, in this space. And automation is not new, and autonomy is not new, and so there's a particular model that does what you're talking about, and describes quite in detail, how, exactly what that means for the man and the machine, and when the computer, they go into levels where they say, okay, now computer works with man, but sometimes offers options, and then it goes into only offers options if there's some risk, and then later decides itself that to do the work, but also will tell the human. Then ultimately, in an autonomous environment, the computer just decides itself and doesn't need to tell anybody. So there's the thing that's called the Sheridan model, if you want to look it up. It's been around a long time, but I think that progression and letting people know where we are and why we're there is good. But the one thing I've learned in all of this is the word automation is completely useless to us. When you're talking about making a product and why you make it. Because when we use automation successfully, we never say the word, other than maybe when I was a young man, the first time the bank turned into a piece of steel with a computer screen on it that I went and did business with. When you're Scottish, giving up any power to a machine when it's money is not easy, because we're naturally tight. So, but that ATM was an automated telling machine, and we trusted it, and nobody knew really it was automated. No one understood it, and so as automation's become our life, the things that we do are wrapped in it, and the progression towards autonomous systems, where people thought it was crazy, but here we are. I when I go to the UK, I usually rent a Volvo and don't bother driving or working. I just tell it the speed I want to go, and again, it goes between A and B. I've been doing that for a while, and And I think for me, for my wife particularly, she's really happy because my driving's horrible, so she quite likes that feeling in the car. But that comfort level was unthinkable, a number of years ago, 2, 3. If it wasn't for DARPA pushing us and saying, "Hey, let's do a competition," which was the smartest thing to do. And then I don't know if you know the DARPA challenge, but they basically tried to do the first autonomous car over a set distance with quite a difficult terrain, and of course nobody finished the race. But by the next year, almost everybody finished the race. And I just think humanity is very good when it understands the challenge. The challenge wasn't to be autonomous. The challenge was to go from A to B and work out how to do it. And of course, the impact is huge. So I think you're right. You described strategy really well, where you project a future and then you work on your steps. And I think if you do that well over time, and your steps sometimes look like that was your strategy. So for us, we started when I was doing the design for the rigs and the machines. I would change it every single time. It was another opportunity. These were, multi-million-dollar, sometimes 100 million, and then the big ships are up in the billions. But so we were doing these big complex systems. It was a lot of fun, but the fun was bad business, and the variance was killing me. And so we pulled back. And then when I hit that 2000 period was when I realized the software is going to be everything. The machines, this is a goofy thing I'm playing around with, and it's not good for business. So let's freeze designs, which is really hard to do when it's engineers and everyone's variance was their business case. Like my vessel should be rented because of this thing. If it's the same as your neighbors, then now what you got? Not much. Maybe it's my people, and that's kind of, they were used to saying my design was better, and so then we froze designs. And generally, people would say that's not possible because the customer wants a special design. And we just worked a way to do it. So I became the designer, and I designed a good enough vessel and said to the shipyards, we're going to do standards. And they went, oh, no, the customers always want to buy their own. So let me be involved in your sales process. So I got involved, and we sat with the customers, and they'd say, this is what I want to do. And you're like, no, that's really good. How about this? And they go, well, that's also good. Good design by you, good design by me. And I said, okay, what if I told you my design is actually going to be on time? And they normally were, back then, they'd be a year late. And I'm for sure on budget. I'll take your design, And we started doing that with machines all the time. And that's a discipline, because the engineer loves the new, let's keep tweaking it. But we started doing volume production, high cost items in standard form. And just took options away for lower price. And so it's that discipline of, everyone who's having fun with the dysfunction. You want to back it off and say, look, we'll save the business if we do these things, and get everyone very focused on the goal of if we don't eat, we've got a problem. So,
David, let's talk about alignment. So you've mentioned that you are a type of individual who likes to set an objective, and you're striving for that objective. But often others who are working with us, they don't see that. So imagine you're developing a product, and you now make a promise that you want to do something for the impact of humanity. You want to build a better solution. And now you need to get other people to be on your side, on your team. You want others to be persuaded to join you. And so you go to product. And so sales is part of this process. What are some of your strategies of how you go about convincing others to join you, right? Imagine you see this interesting vision of full autonomy for the oil rig or even a drilling machine, and you see this in your mind so clearly, but now your goal is to convince others to join you. So how do you go about doing that?
Some don't want to join you. Some are not wired to even understand where you're going. And so usually what people think in these scenarios is, if you could teach me how to get everyone to stop being stupid and understand my thinking, that'd be great. So how do I help them to stop being stupid? And the truth is, it's you. It's not them. And so that's the really bad news for everybody, is the work is, how do I improve my ability to influence others? How do I improve? So if someone rejects my idea, it's my fault. So the work is on ourselves, and it's not popular, but it is the path to success, is working out, okay, how can I get better at this? How can the answer be yes when usually it's no? How do I mean, I've done dysfunctional things for years. I'm still learning how to not do that. I'm getting better at it now, I think, than I have been, because if I had someone who resisted, I would just find a way around them. And that just in my work studies, where they look at you and your personality, they're like, you are not afraid of breaking glass. And I would be like, yeah, that's right. And I was quite happy about that. But that turns people off, and I've become people are very upset by me. And for years, I thought that was just cool, tough luck. I'm saving the business, or I'm saving the product. And over the years, I learned you do damage to people when you do that, or you're disqualifying people you need in your world, who are good at, because I'm more disruptive. But if I didn't have the consistent players and I couldn't get them on board, then we don't have a business, right? I need people who are just, going to never want change. I need them, because we have cash cows who feed the invention. And so really helping yourself develop to communicate with others and to work out how to gain trust. I think it all sits in trust, and that's where I would get into all sorts of trouble. Where, because if I could make anything happen over time, people bought in, they knew me, they understood my vision, they knew I did good things for the company, and most people would do whatever I want. And our three presidents who run three parts of the business found me the most disruptive in their world, because I could get things done where they did not approve. And so I'd found ways to be dysfunctional and make it work. And I was cool with it, but I had to learn. It's much better to learn how to get people on board, and not just, make it happen, which is the way you think it has to be. And so evolving as a leader and as a communicator, and learning, when you struggle with people, that's really your hard work. Now, they could change, that'd be great. But I've seen lots of people I thought would never change, who had problems with me years later, go, wow, you're not a bad guy. I'm like, you really thought I was a bad person? But they did, because my behavior said it. I would get things done. And but there was the cost of that wasn't so good. So getting really, and I don't think this ends in your career or your life, but learning how to influence others. And it doesn't mean trying to be a salesperson to everybody and just, find out how do I get them to make the decision I want. It really means having empathy with others and going, okay, what are they going through? Why is my idea shocking to them? And usually for me, one of the guys who finds it the hardest with me over the years is because all I ever brought was problems in his world, because the learning of a new product is painful. And every time we did it, and in his mind, he just cleaned up the mess afterwards, which was called a very, very successful product. So learning that, this is symbiotic. I need that person to clean up the mess, because it is messy, the front end of development. But I need it to be productized. And to me, that is boring as can be. I don't want to do any of it. But I always want to have those people where we're on the same team. And the enemy is not each other or inside your company. It's not even your competitor. It's just, how good can we get it? How can we get this right? The enemy is, is how, is it's almost like for me, it's a constant dissatisfaction, which I live with. And I don't find, it doesn't upset me. It doesn't make me sad. It just has this like, oh, there's a better way. So in our marketing world, I tell my team, I'm like, in our industry, they'll go, do you think we're better than them? And I'm like, I don't care about them. If you're making a promotional video, it's movies. What's your favorite movie? That's the enemy. That's because you're going to strive high and do it for less money, and we'll shine, And I think that's just, it's really focusing your energy on the right things, and finding ways to I think making a difference. And this is probably the architect of me, but making change happen for people is everything. And so even in how I think, the teams I work with, the goal is keep growing people, keep making us better human beings, and can deliver products and services that help the planet, and you'll be on the right path, So just get, if you keep your focus right, and when you've got a strong leader personality, early on, you just want to be the boss so you can fire all the people you don't like. And it's the wrong model. It's more of a corporate model. If you think in a family model, how many of your kids would you fire? It doesn't work when you think in family terms, and people think in corporate terms. Corporate is an anti-human behavior. There's no corporate children. It's not a style that is natural to humans. It's an anti-human behavior. So learning how to normalize and familial terms, when you have a sibling you don't get on with, you're going to have to work out how to get on with them. And sometimes time fixes that, but it's worth the work to work out how does this thing work. And like families, it's messy. It's not perfect. And people will do things that are stupid, but you've got to care for them anyway. And so I think that kind of mindset of, learning how to be better humans inside your business with your products, and when you get it wrong, going, that was wrong, and moving fast when it's wrong, and being willing to change and adjust and understand that days are going to be up and down and people are going to be up and down, and it's just not that perfect. And you can really do great things, because then you can get to a positive direction that people will follow. And it's all about following. Is if we can all get behind an idea and we can go towards a better solution, it can be fun. It shouldn't. If it's not fun, go do something else. You really should be enjoying what you're doing and working out what are you made to do. I think when you get the what you're made to do stuff right, then you start to enjoy your work. You start to have more vision for where it's going. Make sure you have space in your day or in your week to think about, how am I doing? Where am I going? Make sure you have good friends in your life to tell you how you're doing. Listen to them. And health is really important. It helps you to move on and get it right. So,
David, you've mentioned that you must have empathy to understand those who you work with. You seem to be a trailblazer in that you are okay to take risks, to lead projects forward. My question to you is, how do you balance the team, right? Your strengths, your weaknesses. You need to build a team, to build a product, to build a company. So how do you go about filling the gaps to what you may not be strong in? How do you find people who are strong in those elements? And I would love to learn from your experience. How have you dealt with bringing people who have strengths that you don't have?
Okay. Well, first of all, we're not in control of anything. So that's the first mistake people make, is that if I just let me go they used to call it get the right people on the bus. That was the old business logic. And so you get the wrong ones off, you get the right ones on, you go find them. But all those theories say I'm at the center of the world and it revolves around me, and you're not. But there is a truth that this is a bit more architectural thinking, but there is everything you need around you, and the context of your life and the people around you. And so building great teams is understanding this is part of who I am and what I'm supposed to do. And so everyone you meet is potentially a team member for you, and their skills in watching and observing and looking at human beings and what they do, because then you can work out what's right. And you can have sometimes really great performers are bad for the team, which I just went through that, and it was really peculiar because everyone knew this was one of our top performers, and we let her go. And I talked afterwards, give her some time just to go, this is why I think you're great. I think you can do great things. And because, any kind of that stuff's heavy rejection in life, and you don't want to send someone the wrong way. But it's just really about constantly talking team. And so I do that with my senior leaders. I'll spend a lot of time with them, more disproportionately, I would have said, to most people who lead. And we talk people incessantly. And I try and get them there's a dysfunction in being a boss that happens, in that people aren't telling you the truth. And as you get higher, the less truth gets to you, because you have too much power. And so they're trying to give the answer so that they can survive, right? So you create this weird political situation. So you're trying to break that down all the time so that you can have honest conversation. And that means teaching my leaders more to want negative feedback from employees or from team members, and nobody wants that, right? But learning how to talk in terms of here's your weakness, here's your strength. And I always use the term superpower with everybody, and because I'm on this incessant drive to find people's superpower. And sometimes that superpower is not on our team, which is the case of this lady we just let go. And it was more, you should run your own company. Your superpowers are not fitting for this environment, but oh my goodness, what you could be doing. So those ongoing conversations about where people's superpowers are, where mine are not, and telling people yours are not in this area, and it's not bad news, because I'm going to tell you, you get to eat ice cream. I'm not. There may be some other foods that you need to eat, but the stuff you love, I'm going to have you doing that. And that's, for some people, that means you may have no employees working for you. Well, hold on a minute. I have a title and employees working for me. I'm like, yeah, but it's your dream job. It's sometimes I just make up titles. We have guys on our team who just have titles we made up. It's not a title anyone ever uses, but it's who they are, and they love it. They love telling the story because it leads into who I am, right? And so it's an ongoing tweaking. It's understanding the structural mind and the creative mind and how they have to fit together. One of my weaknesses is loving the creative mind, and so in my teams, people who are more structural feel like they're lesser humans. I'm like, oh gosh, I have to change my behavior so that they understand how, like, I desperately need you people to do your magic because I can't do it. I can't. There's simple things, structural, normal things I can't do. I'm constantly exposing my weakness for people to see, to go, I am not embarrassed by this because there are things I can do. And the things I can do that are, in education, I had huge problems with dyslexia and being able to read, and I still don't read. And people always say, did you hear that in a book? I'm like, no, because I don't read, so definitely not. But it doesn't make me feel bad, and people think it's shameful. Oh my goodness, you don't read. I skim read, it turns out. I didn't know that's what I was doing, but yeah, I do this kind of speed reading stuff, but I perceive really easily, and so all my other skills balance it out. It's not damaging. Certainly, digital iPhones helped a lot, being able to use email, but, quality writing, no chance of me understanding or knowing if it's quality or not. And I'm not embarrassed by it. It just is who I am, but there's tons of other things I can do. And so I think that knowing strengths and weaknesses, learning how to assess them, incessantly talking about people in a good way, like only for their good, even when they seem like problem people. I know that there are problem people. I just think sometimes there are life things that are none of your business that people are going through, and everyone has something they need to deal with, which probably started in your childhood. But I think, we talk in those terms. We talk in terms of when someone acts up on a team, they become an age, right? So we'll observe it because everyone observes it. You'll be like, oh, 14. Don't know what happened when you were 14, but you're behaving like a 14-year-old or a 6-year-old and we don't say that to people, but when you understand it, you can walk people through, well, what is that? When you behave this way, what you need to go and work on that. Not any of our business, but it makes you feel really heavy and dark, and you got to work that out. But I think that, and people feel, as long as you're telling them lots of good things about who they are, you can build incredible teams. I definitely have people on my team that could walk today, most of them, and make a lot more money, but they won't because they're happy and they make a decent living, and they just love the environment, and that causes us to do things. People can't compete with it because they're all about stealing people and treating people bad. Most people do that. They find people like them, they treat them well. People who are different to them treat them bad and think they're not smart. And everyone who has a superpower constantly complains about how everyone else doesn't have that skill they have. And the truth is they have that skill and there's others they don't. And so that whole building incredible teams and tweaking your team all the time is what builds great businesses and great products.
David, one of your superpowers is technology, and you also work for a very unique company. And I want to highlight a few elements that I think will bring context to the audience. So in 2019, NOV reported about 8.5 billion American dollars in revenue. The national oil well, Varco, this is one of the largest oil equipment and oil service providers worldwide. And because you're working with this company, you have a position of change, you have a position of leadership. I would love to learn how are you applying your technological superpower to change how NOV does business, to navigate these waters. COVID-19 is sort of the year of 2020. Where is NOV going in 2021?
I think we've got down, so we buy a company a month on average. I mean, we're a very acquisitive company. We also develop technology. I have the technology centers in different countries, and I work in a corporate job where we empower the small company. I mean, we buy them and we don't tell them to do anything. We're like, you can join us. We're going this way or not. And so they get to choose to be a part of what we're doing. And if they don't, it's okay. We have some spend a decade before they'd realize, oh, it's good to be a part of this bigger family. But we don't force it. And so it's heavily influencing, really. And when I have, a lot of the vision work we do is we call it a fight club, or I call it a fight club. No one else calls it that. In fact, you won't hear it in our company. People don't say fight club. But I call it that because of the movie, and the first rule of Fight Club is there is no Fight Club. So we find people who may not be people of influence, but they're people of great strategic minds who have a great future. And we pull them into rooms and just brainstorm stuff, just think it through. And then they'll suddenly realize years later it happened, But they don't, I tell them, when you come in, you don't talk about this. You were never here. This didn't happen. And it allows us. So then I have the challenge of now seeding ideas. And so, I mean, I'm on one patent with an engineer, but we came up with it 5 years before I ever met that guy. But it wasn't important to me, so it was one of those, great, yes, we invented it together, but because I don't really care about patents but it is that ability of learning how to let go, to let it happen. And so we influence technology by, first having the foresight to come up with plans of where we should be and the willingness to change them as time goes on. But at the same time, that learning how to seed an idea inside an organization and give people enough information, even though in this case, we've done really detailed business studies, and then we kind of seeded it a bit, and the guy started working. I brought some technical people in. And then finally he said, hey, what next? I'm like, let's have a business case. And so I took one of the guys who did the original business case, put him inside, because he'd done it in a Fight Club environment. And so they never knew that it was just the same business case. They were kind of cleaning up. But it's really important because it makes it come alive. It's successful. And so for us, what's coming next is in the data space. And we've been on this journey for a long time, worked on various forms of automation. But what's cool is in the edge computing and learning. Everyone's been doing all this cloud stuff, but no one's been empowering the edge the way they need to in really dirty environments, which is kind of what we do. And so we had to pull together, after years of software wars inside the company of what everyone did themselves and didn't want to be compatible with each other. We pulled everybody in, including our customer, and developed what's going to probably change the world. We didn't know how good it was until we took it into other industry and learned, oh, we're way ahead. We had no clue that we were way ahead. So we'll probably sell it into other industry. But what we did was we took that magic of current data science and kind of connected it to every device. Everyone's been working on languages, standardization of languages, and we worked out a translator so that we don't need to do standardization of languages. You can come with whatever machine you want and we can make it connect. And it's very powerful stuff. And so that's just coming out in a weird kind of launch. We have this weird method of launch with some of the stuff where we don't say, here's the date you can buy it. We actually launch in this kind of, here, first customer, do it on a large scale. Second customer, do it on a large scale. Third, and so you're developing. And it's going to be years out before you really hear anything that's selling it, because it's not really it's a weird soft launch of development. But yeah, that's kind of a fun area. And then we're about 7 years deep now on renewables, but not we have the normal stuff that we do, where we do about 80% of the installation of offshore wind, and we've been doing biogas componentry for years. We're big in fiberglass and non-metallics, and so we're starting to package in that space. So we have all of that packaging, solar stuff we've been doing for a long time. So all of that's going on. But at the same time, we started a process of how do you cut energy in half in the renewable space, the cost. So we just threw that out, and we've been rapid prototyping that for ages. So we have some really good ones that hopefully this year will start to emerge out of the hidden corners that we work on these things. But I mean we do a lot of fun stuff. But I think getting people to work together on the data front, when you go inside of everything front to back inside of oil and gas, we're there making the equipment, and so the ability to automate it and run data from it is a revolution we're just at the beginning of.
Absolutely, and it's great to hear, David, that you've narrowed down this very meaningful impact of reducing energy levels or energy impact by half. That's amazing to hear. This is a big push for many companies, sort of either going carbon zero or minimize how much they use.
I will say that a lot of the people say it, and
yes.
these big numbers. We're trying to actually do it, and we don't say it until it's real. So we're kind of at a disadvantage in the stock market, because in the stock market they all just make these wild statements and it helps their stock, and we stay quiet until it's real. And it's hard to be working on really great things and not have a boss who wants to just tell the world before you even finished inventing it. But in that world there's a lot to do, and we've had that on our backs for a long time. But often misunderstood about oil and gas is, we changed the world. We did everything you have today sources out of our product. All the travel, all the goods, your Amazon boxes turning up, your phone, your everything you've got, and everything that's made our world develop the way it has and got better, is in oil and gas. And we often get a bad run, but in the core of who we are is that mission of making life better for everyone. So sure, our product has some downside, and we'd love to stop doing it. And so we're in the middle of actually solving that problem. So yeah, it's an exciting place. We really enjoy it. We enjoy that kind of save the planet nature that we get into, of what we do. So definitely reducing the impact of carbon now that it's a fully understood thing. Yeah, we'll be. Well, I hope our industry is the one that solves it. If you look at most of the renewables companies, they're all oil and gas companies who change their names. So it's just we've never been loved by society. So, and it's mostly the engineers who don't like to try and clean up the mess. So they don't tell the story as full as it is. But yeah, it's a big thing. It's a big thing. We've had that bothering us for a while, because we always said, we're not going to leave. We didn't leave the Stone Age because we ran out of stones, And people have been saying, oh, we're going to run out of oil. Well, we're not, but that's not why we want to get out of it. It's just, it's not doing it. What comes out of the tailpipe of a car is not good. And that's the bottom line, is it's a pollutant. So we have to find ways to manage that.
David, we are wrapping up on our live stream, but I do want to ask you one more question. I think it'll bring more context to the audience. You've mentioned that you've aligned the company on this goal of reducing the impact of, have mentioned that NOV will continue to expand into 2021, to continue to acquire companies, to continue to develop technologies. My question to you is, seeing that NOV is a very mature company, what are your diversification or integration goals going forward?
We don't really have diversification goals. We just know what we're good at, and we do it. So we always expand into something that is, fits into our wheelhouse, and we never just jump into something that isn't us and say, oh, I hope that works. We generally move across. And so, we're in the industrial space, but you wouldn't know we're there. we build light poles and all over the US, and we do irrigation systems in Australia for half the small farms. But it's not the big news, because the money is okay. Money's okay. We do the third world water pumps. We do lots of things that any kind of processing of slurries we're involved in. And we make bridges for for railways and that install in an hour rather than days. And there's things we do. They're all cool things, but they're usually because there was an oil and gas application that we took, and we also do it in other locations. Truth about the business side was there was money in the oil and gas side, so we diversify where there's good place too. So we like to make products that are valuable, and we were pretty good at it. So we have our industrial arm keeps growing all the time, but we've been in it for many years, and we generally aren't known. Our name is not very public. Maybe on vessels you'll see us if you're ever on a vessel and you see a large crane that has NOV on the side. That's likely all of your mooring and your anchor systems. 60% of those are ours. We're all over the place, and it's not as important that everyone knows us. Just the people who want to buy our stuff. So we don't tell the world about ourselves that much. We just keep doing our work, and so we'll keep turning up. Somewhere near you. If we can make something that is valuable, we're going to go do it. And so we're very product heavy, and in the software world, we're a lot more service driven as well. But yeah, all sorts of places. There's not really a limit to us. We just move into what makes sense, where we can provide value.
David, I want to thank you so much for your time. It's been great chatting with you. You have shared with us many insights of how you think about team formation, how you think about product development, how you think about scaling technology. And I am excited to interview you. I will continue to interview executives like David going forward. This live stream is meant to educate. This live stream is meant to provide massive value for people who are interested to use technology to solve business problems. And I am excited to keep in touch with you, David. I really appreciate your time. Thanks very much.
Yeah, thank you.
And this concludes our live stream. I want to again thank David for joining in, and stay tuned for the next live stream, which will be moving forward next week, where we discuss how to disrupt the banking infrastructure using open source technologies, the latest technologies. This is a live stream that we will schedule for next Friday, approximately the same time. I look forward to keep in touch with all of you. I remind everyone who's interested to consider scheduling a brief conversation with me. If you are interested to use technology to solve business problems, feel free to reach out to myself, my team, and we are more than happy to have a conversation with you around technology. David has brought us many insights about product development, product ideation, and product launch, and I am excited to bring on others like David to bring you value about how you go about leveraging technology in your business. Again, my name is Slava Kurilyak, and I am excited. I am pumped, and I cannot wait for the next live stream. Thanks very much for your time.